Hello and welcome back to the No More Trauma podcast. My name is Tanya, trauma survivor, certified trauma informed yoga teacher, coach, and wellness facilitator. My mission is to provide healing, mental health tips, and inspiration for living a trauma free lifestyle. You can find this podcast here on Apple and SoundCloud. And some episodes you can also find here on YouTube. Um, I first want to say, as you noticed in the last episode last month, we did an episode. I did mention that I have changed my location. So sometimes I always I laugh because I always pick the most interesting times to record when there are natural sounds. So due to my location where I am today, you may hear some natural sounds, but I promise this podcast always has some good content. That way you can just focus on the content itself. But welcome back. How are you? Oh, it feels so good to record. I'm excited about today's episode because I'm passionate about it. I'm passionate about the work that I do and the topics that I bring here to the podcast. And if you follow me on the social platform, then you may also, and again, there's a natural sound that's happening. But um, I if you follow me on, YouTube or very, the social platform, then you know that you may see the passion boiling within me. So, yeah, I hope that, you are listening today with an open heart, open mind. But today we're talking about trauma related fear and stress during the holidays. As a kid, I remember just waiting all year for fall and winter break. Not only did we get to enjoy class activities, but there were opportunities, enjoying seasonal foods and just writing a list of all the things I hoped that Santa would bring me. But and singing, there's a music this time of year that I think can be so rich, regardless of religion or your traditions. I think the music during this time can be very rich, enriching. But there may be someone out there that's saying, "No, Tanya, I actually don't like it at all," and that's okay. Whether it's with lyrics or no lyrics at all, that you enjoy the tunes. Um, but I'm just kind of sharing myself. I really enjoy like the I grew up in the band. I was a flag girl back in high school and throughout some of my college. I was a flag girl, and so the percussion, the sounds, and the music. And prior to that, I was also in the orchestra. I played the viola for some time. I've actually been missing it lately. I did get an opportunity to um, see the Royal Symphony a few weeks ago. So I think the music can be so rich during this time. But anywho, outside of the music and riding along in the car and hanging, stringing lights, while there are some of us who really enjoy this time, but if we think of the collective, there are others who may, while some are, we're spreading the festive cheer, we're decorating the homes and celebrating with family and friends. There are other people who really experience deep somber. There's a sadness, there's high stress during this season. So nearly a quarter of Americans reported feeling extreme stress that comes along with the holiday time. And according to a poll by the American Psychological Association, a quarter of Americans who feel this stress, and those numbers have climbed. So surveys and research has shown that some individuals suffer from anxiety due to the pressure of just, being around challenging family members that lack boundaries, shame around that financial pressure to purchase food and gifts. And then there's just sadness from the memories or anniversaries of a lost loved one. So the holidays can, yeah, it can definitely look different for all of us. As an empath myself, I like to say that I've been given the beautiful gift of feeling. I used to hate when people would say, "Tanya, you're so sensitive." I hated that so much. And then when I started to, go through my own journey of healing and therapy work, I know that, sometimes that was, you know, used to make fun of the nature to feel. But what I've later come to realize is that, that's my superpower. There are some individuals who have a challenge with feeling, right? Being in touch with those emotions and calling them, right? Naming those emotions. Um, but yeah, I think during this time, um, I have the superpower and gift to feel, not just for my immediate members of family, but for the overall collective. I feel the somber of loss, things that are going on in Iran. Um, my goodness, things that are, you know, um, just immigrants being, misplaced. Uh, and so on. And so having to feel the weights of that burden, I think it's important that we, you know, um, bring light to that, and not turn a blind eye to others that are, not also feeling that sense of cheer or festivity. Okay. So the pre-holiday physical and emotional symptoms or fear of stress can bring sensations of headaches and nausea, right? Fatigue, especially during this time. What I've come to learn in my studies that the month of November is where all of the blood is pulled from the limbs and it starts to move towards the belly, right? So this is where we start to feel more fatigue and we feel more tired and a need for rest. And we may experience more bloating, more um, sensations in the gut, or we're just continually reaching for those comforting foods to make us feel warm, right? Um, but in terms of the symptoms of the fear and stress, the stress or anxiety about, maybe taking off from work, right? Even if we're feeling, um, say lonely or loss, right? So even just the stress of having to request time off or request time off because you have relatives coming in, right? Or maybe a friend coming in um, to where you are. And maybe the inability to not concentrate in your work, right? I even noticed, for myself, I start to get burnout. I noticed right after October, um, is where I just start to get tired. I've noticed I've done a lot of sleeping um, in this month of November. And yeah, I do my best to stay active by hopping on the mat. Maybe my hour sessions have now decreased to 30 minutes. Sometimes 30 minutes have turned into a 20 really juicy 20-minute session. But we may also feel lack of appetite, right? Stiffness, right? So when the blood is moving towards the belly, then that's when we start to notice inflammation in the joints, right? And so, or due to the coolness, whatever climate you're in, you may experience some stiffness in the bones and muscles, right? So some good coconut oil is good to good to have during this time. And maybe it's just fearing the next day or the upcoming weeks, depending on, maybe you're under the age of 18 and you have relatives coming in. And so there's this sense of dread and somber, or dread and somber of having to, you know, not be in school, but now you have that winter break. Okay. And maybe home doesn't feel like a safe environment. And so there's dread and somber. And so I think it's important as parental figures, adults, um, if you're looking after anyone under the age of 18, then, maybe opening up dialogue, right, about what, your child or nephew, niece, um, grandchild may be feeling during this time, or foster, or whatever that dynamic is. So, common experience that impact this sense of fear and stress can be family related, right? So, as I started to close on the topic of family and what that looks like, if you're parenting or fostering, um, or a grandparent, um, and even adult. Um, Sometimes the stress and fear around the holidays can be family related. And what does that look like? So, or what does that mean? And so, sometimes it can be a lack of physical and emotional boundaries, right? So, studies show that, one may fear the anxiety of, going home to a space where family members may lack a sense of physical boundary, right? And emotional safety. Okay. The pressure of not being good enough, right? So if we're at the holiday table and we're, um, competing, against another relative or sibling, right? So that sibling or relative comparison, right? So, feeling like, you got to get this recipe right. And I think I mentioned that in another stress around the holiday table, navigating stress around the holiday table. That's another podcast that I did. Um, and so you can listen to that. But yeah, so that need to compare, right? Getting one recipe better than the other for acceptance or approval, or maybe the in laws, right? um, and exploiting or provoking guilt or shame from past or present or future memories, right? So maybe someone feeling shame about past memories and maybe that being brought up at a holiday table, right? Or a festive gathering. And so that feeling of pressure to perform or discuss talents and accolades, right? So this can also bring up some stress, right? Some fear, some anxiety, some um, even fatigue, right? Some or headaches. So some of these common experience that impact our fears and stress can be family related. And so being able to take a look at that. And speaking of stress, I do want to share my latest and yeah, my latest and new favorite elixir is Magic Mind. Something that's I have been enjoying for a few months now. is a Magic Mind, and you can visit their website, magicmind.co, and that's MAGIC mind, MIND.co /NMT. So that's No More Trauma. And that's the brand is actually by James Bushera, who created these 2-ounce elixirs that include one of my favorite ingredients, which is an ashwagandha and honey. They both can help soothe and balance the mind, help release any sensations of anxiety, right? Or fear of stress. So this is something, if you know that family is coming in town or just having some overall overwhelm, then I highly recommend, grabbing your own box of these 2-ounce elixirs. So not only can they support the mood and reduce anxiety, they're also convenient. So they're, again, 2 ounces of these matcha elixirs that have honey, like I said, ashwagandha. And what I love most is the message on the bottle, which is a gentle reminder to do more and stress less. That is the purpose of this podcast, is to make sure that we're keeping the stress and anxiety to a minimal, creating this trauma-free lifestyle. So the another good thing about these is that they're convenient. So you're not having to replace like your coffee or your smoothies in the morning. You can take them at the same time. And if you're on the go to your yoga studio, your local studio, or just out on a run to work, they are convenient where you can just pop it in your purse or handbag, or just take it with you. And you can purchase when you go to the website. If you are a person that like to prep and make sure that you're prepped for the week, you can purchase a 15-pack box. Or if you're really minimal and like to just, have everything stocked for the month, then you can get a 30-pack box. So magicmind.co /N like no, M like more, T like trauma. And you can use that code NMT40 for a discount. So I am all about easing the stress in the mind, body, and your wallet. All right. So continuing with the financials of the holiday is the strain, right? So that stress and that anxiety for the holiday during this season can be the pressure of food. We've experienced an influx of prices on food, right? And so even that, being able to provide for family, or provide for, family who doesn't, who's not even, who's in the house every day, right? Or um, for individuals that are visiting. So, sometimes that stress can be on the cost of food, on the cost of gifts, that pressure to give gifts and to celebrate, to decorate, right? So even that, and there's the idea of travel and accommodation expenses. Oof, my goodness. So just, and if you're doing all of those, then yes, absolutely, there can be a impact on the wallet, and on the mind. On top of being able to make sure that our work is allowing us the time to have that time off. So, um, lastly is the memories, right? So the memories and anniversaries of loss. And so, it's very unfortunate that, each and every time I open my phone and I have so much, even on social media, I really have to tell myself, turn off the phone, hop on the mat, turn off the phone, hop on the mat, turn off the phone, go meditate, go, talk to spirit, talk to the universe, talk to God, whatever that is for you. And so, um, that the constant reminder of loss, and the holidays can have this take on what family looks like. And if we have lost someone so near and dear to us, it can be very challenging and just a reminder, right? And that we may still be working with some grief. We may still be working with some, just guilt and shame around loss, and however that has impacted your ability to work and move throughout the year. I know really challenging for me. I lost my dear fur baby, Daisy. If you heard me on other podcasts, you may have heard her barking in the background. But yeah, my lovely Daisy. Yeah, just after the holiday last year, that weekend, it was, we said our last goodbyes, and it was very hard. And so this year will be 1 year, and it is a reminder, my gosh. So there are some that are grieving during this time, and um, where not everyone is in that space to really celebrate, because of the memory and reminder of that loss. Okay, whether it's a friend, a family, a fur baby, or maybe even a coworker, someone distant to us, but still dear to us. So, how do we care for ourselves during this time? What does that look like? And what can we do to get out of this maybe emotional space that can be pretty heavy for some of us? And what I've learned is that, as the past few years, some of my adult life, I've spent the holidays not so much in a traditional setting, and even after divorce, right? After my divorce and noticing what the holiday looked like, and some of that being um, uh, like Friendsgiving, that new phrase of Friendsgiving and what that means, which I think is really great. And that can definitely bring some cheer. And so the first thing is what I like to say is to document, right? So what, begin to share what the experience is for you, right? So what does, or what are the emotions that are coming up for you, right? So when I mentioned in the beginning the emotional and the physical strain of the holiday, maybe begin to build some awareness for what it is that you may be feeling, right? And where can you feel it? I remember earlier, um, last week, I was missing my little furry friend. And, um, I felt a little sensation in my belly. And so when I placed a finger on it, right, physically, I placed the finger on it, I noticed it was in that solar plexus area. So right underneath, or right below or above the belly button, right? And above and below the breastbone, right? Or the bust. And so that's where that sensation was hanging out. And it's like, what does that mean? And I was like, oh, that feeling of missing my little furry friend. So, begin to document, right? Just kind of pause for a moment, try not to move ahead, and discover what it is that you feel. Maybe it's not attachment to a furry friend. Maybe it's again, the financial strain, right? So being able to figure out what it is that you feel and where those sensations are coming from, and maybe seeing if you can link it, to a memory or an identifier in the relationship to the holiday. Okay. And so maybe that means speaking to a professional, right? Or maybe calling on a dear friend, maybe do the downward spiral to figure out what is the root of what could be causing some of that anxiety and stress. And then the next is, now that you know what you know, who says you can't celebrate, right? Says that it has to look traditional? Maybe you're not wanting to celebrate in a traditional setting of being at a table. But I remember I was inspired by a friend close to me, and she would just travel, right? So each holiday time, she would just take a trip to somewhere new. And so maybe once you're able to identify what it is, get a chance to talk it out and process what it is that you're feeling, maybe you can celebrate, but celebrating it in a way that feels good for you. And maybe that means taking a trip, right? And maybe this becomes your personal tradition and it's a holiday trip that you do for you. Right. And it doesn't have to be far. It doesn't have to be out of the country. Maybe it's just a staycation in your neighboring city, whether it's staying in an Airbnb, a ranch, in a cabin house, right? Or maybe a nice hotel down in the city. And maybe you enjoy some spa time, maybe take a warm bath and watch, maybe one of your favorite childhood films, pick up some takeout. That was another thing um, back in college, I had spent it with outside of college, I had spent it with a friend. Um, I had went to her family's house for Thanksgiving in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And her childhood best friend, um, she was raised by a single mother, and what they would do each year is they would try different food around the world. So her and her mother ordered sushi, and they ordered like these two fancy they got these very just gorgeous wooden boats. There were these wooden boats that you place sushi on. That's how so that they would go to their favorite place, get the takeout, bring out these boats, and platter the boats with the sushi. And they would just watch their favorite film. And I just thought that was incredible, absolutely incredible. So again, taking the non-traditional route, another year, not too far. This was on the West Coast in the state of Arizona, where um, she would meet with a group of friends at one of her friends at this just gorgeous house where they all were roommates, and they would do a book exchange. So everyone would bring up either an old or new book, and it was a book that you read, and you would do a book exchange, and the books would get piled in the center. They were wrapped with all these beautiful wrappings. You get to see everyone's character with the wrapping, and everyone would pick out a book. And once you pick the book, You didn't know what book it was until you opened it and you had it. I guess it was a mixture of like, I think what it's called, white elephant. I could be wrong. You can always leave in the comments. And so everyone would just pick this book, and if they like it, they kept it. And if someone else picked a book and that they desired, then they got a chance to take that book and take and whatever book they had gotten, they can put it back in the pile. So that was a lot of fun, a lot of fun, and it was done over some cider and some hot chocolate, and oh my goodness, it was an amazing experience. So there are ways that you can celebrate, that feels good and feels festive for you, right? And it's about making it your own, whatever you choose to do, whether you choose to stay close or to take a trip out of the country or the neighboring city, or to do a book exchange. You can make it yours. Another and final way is, I think, is always good, is when we're in a space of deep somber and sadness. One of the greatest feelings is being able to donate or give something to someone else, whether it's your time, whether it's a kind word, whether it is a warm hug or just a smile. It doesn't have to be a financial or monetary thing. It doesn't have to be food. But of course, I know that's how I like to give. I'm always baking up something and wanting to give it to someone. But, whatever your labor of love, you can extend that to someone else, whether it be a card, a hug, a smile, kind words, your time, or a beautiful baked good wrapped in a bow. You can always extend that, and I promise you that can also become tradition, right? And so it's about feeling safe. It's about making it your own, right? Creating something that feels good for you. And so while the holidays can be a season of excitement, it can also be a time where there is anticipated fear and stress for others. And so may we all just offer space and grace for those that may not feel entirely festive or desire to celebrate in a traditional way. May we all have this opportunity to choose to celebrate in the ways that bring ease and comfort to our soul. Let us have gratitude for the breath, life, and the healthy memories that we hold dear to our hearts, whether new or old. I wish that we can create it either away or at the holiday table. So I am wishing you a season of peace and just some trauma-free nourishment, however that looks for you. I thank you so much for tuning in. Again, I love doing this podcast. Remember to live abundantly, love your authenticity, and radiate organic happiness. But most importantly, live a life of no more trauma. Namaste. Trauma-free. All right. I wish to see you back. Again, you can always follow me on No More Trauma, the YouTube channel. I have posted some yoga and Pilates videos there. You can always tune in. And then, of course, you can always follow me at az.nomore.trauma. Such a pleasure. I look forward to seeing you back in the next episode. Bye.